So how do you find wisdom? That's the question. Ecclesiastes 7:23 to 29, the last part of chapter 7, reveals a search, if you will, by Solomon to find wisdom. He says he's determined to be wise, and everything he does, he searches everywhere. He's determined to prove to himself that wickedness is bad, and that foolishness is madness, and wisdom is good. And then he says that the women around him ended up being a snare or a trap to him, and he wasn't able to please God. And then he comes to a conclusion. He said that as I looked at everything, then I found that it's impossible. Wisdom isn't out there. I can't find it. And people aren't good. Women aren't good. Life is just futile, and it spirals down. He really laments that he couldn't find wisdom. And it says that he was looking in his own efforts. It was his attempt. It was he says he wants to prove to himself all of his effort, all of his work, and it just proved futile. He left God completely out of the equation to find wisdom. Even though at the very beginning, God grants him wisdom. But then as he got further and further away from God, he began to think that he could acquire wisdom on his own. He even talks about the fact that his relationships with women caused him problems, because the women that he hung out with, the women that he chose, the women that were his wives, they weren't followers of God. The Bible warns us of the danger of having a physical relationship with an unbeliever, having a spouse that is an unbeliever. Then he goes on to say that his search was futile. It didn't find anything. It didn't result in anything. So the question for you and I is, how do you find wisdom? Well, Proverbs 4, verse 5 says, "Get wisdom, develop good judgment. Don't forget my words or turn away from them." There's a little clue in there. Don't forget my words. So those wanting to get wisdom for God are going to have to reject this so-called wisdom from the sources that are all around us, the internet, the people on TV, all these experts. That isn't the place we go for wisdom. Those with worldly thinking will always advise against true godly wisdom. Michael Milton says, recognize that true wisdom is something that we need. We need to recognize that wisdom is a gift from God. And then the Bible says, ask God for wisdom. James 1:5 says, if you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. Now, if you read on in James, it says, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Make sure you have faith. Make sure you're following the teachings of the Bible, because if you don't, the wisdom isn't going to do you any good. And then use wisdom for the glory of God. The very nature of wisdom guides your heart to use your life to fulfill God's will and demonstrate how to love your neighbor. So where do you find wisdom? You find it in God. Look in his word, pray, ask God to fill you with wisdom, and live your life for his glory. Have a great day.